In many videos on this channel, I've always talked about the importance of setting up your workspace so that it's conducive for your own productivity. At the end of the day, you're only going to be as productive as your tools will allow you to be. And one aspect that you must always take into consideration when you're designing your workspace is ergonomics. When it comes to ergonomics, there are so many variables that are at play, such as the height of your monitor or your table, your keyboard and your mouse placement, and a bunch of other things. But I personally think that the first item that you need to invest in when it comes to the ergonomics of your workspace is a chair. There's a new adage that's going around that says sitting is the new smoking. That's an over-exaggeration. Smoking is still significantly much worse than sitting. However, it is true that you shouldn't be spending most of your day just sitting around on a chair. It's estimated that adults spend around 6 to 8 hours a day just sitting. And it's also true that the human body evolved in such a way that it's designed to run, jump, walk, lift, and do other sorts of physical activities. It's because it's these kinds of movements that were once crucial for our survival as a species. Back in the ancient times, the human body was rarely ever spending 6 to 8 hours a day just sitting around. Fortunately, new research and developments in the field of ergonomics have allowed us to understand that while sitting is not ideal, there is still an ideal way for you to sit throughout the day. And this is exactly where ergonomic chairs come in. I'm going to link you to a great YouTube video here. It goes into great detail about the ideal way for you to configure your workspace around your chair. But here are some of the main highlights of that video. Your knees should ideally be at a 90-degree angle with your feet firmly planted on the floor. If your legs are too short, then you can make use of a footrest so that your legs aren't just dangling in mid-air. Next, you should also sit as close to your desk as possible. This will prevent your shoulders from being strained too much by stretching out too far for the keyboard or for the mouse. And your armrests should be perfectly aligned with the height of the desk so that you're decreasing the pressure and strain on your wrists when you type. Lumbar support should always be positioned toward the lower area of your back to provide that added support and to prevent you from slouching over. And lastly, don't spend consecutive multiple hours on end just sitting. As a general rule of thumb, take 5 minutes out of every hour or 15 minutes out of every 2 hours to just stand up, walk around, do some stretches, and relieve your body of the stress of sitting. Again, despite the numerous advancements in ergonomics, your body just isn't designed to be sitting around all day long. When I was building my desk setup, I purchased the Sihoo M57. I bought it because of all of the rave reviews that I read about it online when I was doing my research. And that chair served as my daily driver for around a couple of months. I managed to get the chair for around 9,000 pesos on Lazada, including shipping. Then, a few months down the line, my girlfriend was gifted with a Stance Cradle Deluxe ergonomic chair. It was worth around 18,000 pesos, so it's twice the price of what I paid for my Sihoo. Unfortunately for her, the chair was a little too big for her small frame, and so we decided to trade chairs. She now has the Sihoo that she uses at her work-from-home setup, and I'm using the Stance in my work-from-home setup. Since then, we've both gotten engaged, and my fiancé now spends a lot more time here at my house, so we decided to set up her own work-from-home setup here. I already had an extra table that she could use, and so we only had to find a chair. We saw this as a good opportunity to get an ergonomic chair that's on the relatively affordable side, just so we get to compare all of the different chairs at different price points. And that brings me to this chair that I'm sitting in right now. This is the Flexispot Task Chair Omega. It costs around 5,000 pesos on Lazada. Now, the purposes of this review is to find out just how much money you really need to spend on an ergonomic chair. The Stance ergonomic chair is twice as expensive as the Sihoo M57, but is it twice as good? Or is it even possible to get a good ergonomic chair for just 5,000 pesos like the one that I'm sitting in right now? Let's find out. To start this review, let's talk about the caster wheels that these chairs sit on. The first thing that I can tell you off the bat is that there's nothing special with these casters. They're stock and there's no premium feel to any of them. They could even potentially damage the finish of wooden floors, so try to upgrade to higher-end casters or put them on a carpet. While all of these casters are similar, I will say that the Flexispot is the easiest chair to move around. Maybe it's because that it's a much lighter chair, but this does come with a caveat in that I find myself moving away from the desk even when I don't want to. Next, let's move on to seat material. The Flexispot seat is made out of a soft and plush molded foam material with a waterfall edge to alleviate pressure against the back of the knees and legs. Since it's made out of foam, you don't get much breathability like the other options. The foam also allows your butt to really sink into the material, so there isn't much support that's pushing your body upward, but some people prefer that sinking sensation as opposed to the pushing sensation of other materials. The Sihoo M57 comes with a soft mesh material. Even though it's mesh, it's not rough on the skin because, like I said, it's a softer mesh. They call it a high density mesh that's designed to be firm and durable, and true to their word, the mesh still feels just as supportive as it did on the first day. Mesh comes at the advantage of promoting better airflow, which is a great benefit for people who live in areas with hot climates like the Philippines. I think that the mesh is soft enough so that it does a good job of making me feel comfortable enough while I sit, but it's also supportive enough so that I'm maintaining good posture all throughout. Aside from the waterfall design, the seat also has a curved design so that there is an equal spread of pressure on a natural sitting position. However, this may not be ideal for those who sit in an Indian squat. The stance seat is made out of a nylon mesh material. It still promotes breathability just like the Sihoo. However, it offers more support than actual comfort as it is a sturdier mesh. That doesn't mean that it's uncomfortable. In fact, some people like myself actually enjoy a seat that offers more support than plushness. It also has the same curved design as the Sihoo, but it's more pronounced because of the harder mesh material. When it comes to the seat height adjustments, the Flexispot has a height range of around 8.5 centimeters. The Sihoo has a height range of 12 centimeters, while the Stance has a height range of 10 centimeters. I have found that all of the three chairs provide adequate range when it comes to seat height, and I've always managed to lock in an ideal seat height with each of them. However, when it comes to seat depth, it's only the Stance chair that has an adjustability feature. It's virtually impossible to adjust the seat while you're sitting in it. This is a feature that is found on the highest end chairs like Herman Miller, but with those chairs, you can sit on it while making the actual adjustments. With a Stance, it's a trial and error kind of thing wherein you make an adjustment, try it out, and just hope that you made the right adjustment, but it's a good feature nonetheless. For the Backrest Material, the Flexispot has what they call a Korean mesh. It's the least breathable material out of the three, but it still offers great breathability as compared to fabric or polyurethane leather offerings from traditional gaming chairs. The Stance and the Sihoo Backrest materials are essentially made up of the same materials that the seats are made up of. That means that they also offer the same level of comfort and support that the seats offer. However, I will note that the Stance Backrest material is actually much softer, and it just does a better job of molding to whatever position your back is in, whereas the Sihoo forces your back to be in a certain position. When it comes to the tilt adjustment for the chairs, the Flexispot offers a decent amount of tilt, but there aren't any lockable positions. It's either you're fully upright or you're fully reclined. The lack of a headrest also makes it impractical for staying in a tilted position for prolonged periods. The Sihoo has a 3-position lock at 110, 120, and 130 degrees. It's also a more intuitive lever system for locking in multiple positions. The Stance has a more complex lever system for the tilt lock. Just like the Sihoo, it locks at 3 different positions: 101 degrees, 108 degrees, and 118 degrees. However, there is also a forward tilt position that allows you to sit in a more upright position. This is great for whenever you want to alleviate the stress on the lower back because you're placing more weight on your feet instead. There is a tension control system for both the Sihoo and the Stance. The Sihoo has a knob underneath the base of the chair which allows to increase or decrease the tension of the tilt. The Stance has a better and more accessible lever system on the right side of the chair to serve the same purpose. In my personal opinion, the lumbar support is my priority when it comes to choosing ergonomic chairs, and that's why I have to say that the Flexispot is a deal breaker for me. It does not have any lumbar support, and that might not necessarily be a deal breaker for most people. Both the Stance and the Sihoo have adjustable lumbar support, which is good. You can adjust the height within a range of 5 centimeters to target a specific point of your lower back, and you can also adjust the amount of support through an adjustable range of 3 centimeters for both chairs. It's worth noting that the Sihoo lumbar height doesn't lock into place, but I've never had experiences of it going up or down when I didn't want it to. It does require some force to adjust the height of the lumbar on the Sihoo, but the stance has a more intuitive lumbar height adjuster with its lever system here on the back. In fact, the stance has the advantage of you being able to adjust the lumbar support while you're actually seated in the chair. For the armrest materials, I will say that the Flexispot has the most uncomfortable armrest because it's made of a harder plastic. In fact, my fiance, who's the one who actually uses this chair, makes use of a foam padding to alleviate the pressure that are on her forearms. The Sihoo and the stance have an identical material for their armrests, but I will say that the stance does have the advantage because of the wider armrest base. Take note that this is a personal preference. Some people would prefer a narrower or smaller armrest. In terms of adjustability, the Flexispot only has height adjustments available, and you can adjust the height of the armrest by turning the knobs and loosening up the actual armrest before you can adjust it yourself. This is far inferior when you compare it to the height adjustment systems on the Sihoo and the stance, where it's just a matter of pressing a button. Both the stance and the Sihoo are capable of going up and down within a range of 7 centimeters. The armrests for the stance and the Sihoo can also go front and back within a range of 7 centimeters. Both armrests are also capable of going inward and outward, with the Sihoo having a rotation range of 36 degrees and the stance having a rotation range of 40 degrees. This is a great feature because whenever I'm typing or writing, I like to turn the armrests in so that I have my elbows closer to my body whenever I type. However, I like to orient my armrests outward whenever I'm looking to relax, like watching a movie or when I'm gaming. For the headrest, it's obvious that the Flexispot has none. Now, this might not necessarily be a big deal. In fact, the highest end ergonomic chairs like the ones from Herman Miller don't come with headrests either. They say that it's because a well-designed chair shouldn't necessitate a headrest, especially when it comes to working and general productivity. However, for people like me who like to use my ergonomic chair for lounging around, reading a book, or playing games, a headrest is crucial because it helps alleviate the strain on my neck whenever I'm in a tilted position. As you may have guessed, the headrest material for both the Sihoo and the stance is made up of the same mesh that the backrest and the seats are made up of. They have similar height adjustment systems wherein it's just a matter of pulling the headrest up and down. They also provide an adequate range of motion, with the stance and the Sihoo being able to adjust within a range of 50 degrees. However, I will say that the Sihoo does a better job of really supporting my neck and my head whenever I'm in a full tilt position. I can't say if this is going to be the same experience for everyone. And that brings me to my overall experience with the 3 chairs. If you're absolutely strapped for cash and you want to limit your budget as much as possible, the Flexispot is a really good choice. Granted, it's not going to have all of the bells and whistles like the Sihoo or the stance. It's also not going to be the same kind of build quality as we pointed out earlier. And the lack of a lumbar support may be a deal breaker for some, but if you're someone who's just looking for a reliable chair and you only have around 5,000 pesos to spend, this is a pretty good option. But I honestly think that the best bang for buck chair that you can possibly buy right now is the Sihoo M57. Again, it's not going to have all of the same bells and whistles as the stance ergonomic chair, as we've already determined earlier. If you're someone who really wants all of that adjustability that the stance chair offers, then by all means, go ahead, purchase the stance chair. It's a great chair. However, I just can't justify the price point. I don't think that the stance chair is twice as good as the Sihoo M57. And for that reason, that's why I think that you should just save your money and get the Sihoo instead. But obviously, the stance chair is going to be the best chair on this list. It offers a great deal of adjustability for you so that you can really fine-tune the different aspects of your sitting position at your workspace. However, I would caution you, if you are a smaller person, the stance chair is relatively big, and I think it is designed for big people. So if you're like me, if you're someone with a bigger frame, or if you're taller, then by all means, get the stance chair. It would be perfect for you. It would also be good for people who like to sit in non-conventional sitting positions like the Indian squat. The stance chair will allow you to do that because of its wider seat. So really, it's all a matter of how much money you're able to shell out and what kind of priorities you have when it comes to ergonomics. I'm still working hard and trying my best to get my hands on an Erman Miller chair. That's the goal. That's the grail chair that I want to have in the future. Hopefully, Erman Miller, you're paying attention. But I'm also interested in the ergonomic chair that Razer just released. I heard that it's really good when it comes to ergonomics because it's not the same as all the other gaming racing chairs that are out there. So I'm interested in getting my hands on that as well. Hopefully down the line, we'll be able to do reviews for those products. But for now, this will have to do. So yeah, that just about does it for this video. Thank you guys for listening. I'll see you around on this channel again soon.